This is our playtest of the Silt versus role-playing game. This is part 2 of the playtest. So we begin session 2 and every session after this with our little beginning of session procedure. The very first thing we're going to do is check to see if I had this procedure written down and now I just made it this morning. We decided that we needed such a thing. I'm going to recap all the active assignments. Right now, the active assignment you have is the Hungering Roots. Now, this is the one where you're in this little kind of like small neighborhood east of Glottage. There are reports of unlicensed sacrifices taking place in a warehouse. Some ambitious producer of psychotropic tea ingredients has managed to imprison a harvest god in an indoor growing facility. They have figured out a way to continuously cycle this harvest ritual and maximize their production to vastly outpace their government-regulated competitors. But this god is accustomed to the domain of field and meadow, of rituals invoking the sun and moon instead of the artificial lights and humidity-controlled rooms of the warehouse. It's actually growing quite rapidly and demanding greater sacrifices. And so we've seen some evidence of that rapid growth already. We can see it kind of spreading throughout this kind of like tenement building, which is near the warehouse. We see it actually creeping the roots and vines up the walls of the warehouse itself. And we have some indication that some of the people who work in and around the warehouse have been actually sort of have had the roots like in them, like they are sort of taken over or possessed by this Hungering Roots god. And so the questions that you have available to you, there are 3 different ways of resolving this assignment. First is, how is the harvest god most vulnerable? That's a complexity 4. Alternatively, what resources does this harvest god offer if appeased? And then finally, where can this harvest god be safely transplanted? They're all different ways of taking care of this harvest god so it's not a danger, it doesn't spread too far. The third approach, which is the most difficult, it's a complexity 8, also gives you a brand new special move if you do that one, called the Mark of Quickening. You have 3 clues currently on this particular assignment, the third of which I have not given to you yet. Sybil got it on the last 10 roll that Sybil made, but I'll do that near the beginning of this session. But it was basically while you were questioning this woman, Gail Van Wyck, who lives in the tenement building. And so that is sort of where things stand with that assignment. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and mark new end of session questions, or leave either or both the same as you wish, or pick new pick new end of session questions. Do we have any moves that are resolved at the beginning of the session? Okay, then I will introduce a new assignment. The custodians always have something on their plate, always just a little bit more than they can handle. That's sort of how the bureau that has pressed you into service does their business. Oh, also want to mention we have a conspiracy clue too. The conspiracy clue is the group is being followed by a nebbish man with a clipboard. So you have another assignment as well. And we'll talk about like what that means in terms of like when and how you can investigate that one in addition to this one. But I'm going to just introduce it for now. You can follow along if you go to the assignments tab on the character keeper. I've put all the text right there. This assignment, your second assignment, is called The Dusk Mother. The custodians are informed of a series of disturbances near the rural town of Weft, located just on the border of the Clutching Woods. Reports of strange attacks on livestock and damage to power lines and vehicles have been documented. Hopworth Industries, a nearby meatpacking plant, claims that some kind of large predator has been raiding their compound at night. Law enforcement records show evidence of a stray angel making its haunt on the grounds of Skelton Ranch, though no conclusive action has been taken, and local residents have not been forthcoming with previous investigators. The Skelton family, thought to have abandoned production on their farm years ago, is rumored to harbor an angel which has caused trouble for other residents in the past. According to locals, the Skelton family simply referred to the entity as Mother. It is unclear what their relationship is with the angel, but it has been known to haunt the woods around their property for several generations as part of some pact. Attempts to reach the Skeltons directly were unsuccessful, so the custodians have been directed to contain or eliminate the angel before its territory encroaches on any nearby counties. I'm going to direct this question, the next question, to I'm going to direct this question to Bastion, who is hopefully alive when we return. Bastion, you have heard of family gods and angels before and how their influence keeps its hold over generations. What rumors of the Skelton family in particular makes you suspect that this angel has dug its claws in too deep?
I think that every member of the Skeleton family, they know, like, even when they're invited off property or invited to go and see relatives elsewhere, I think there's no record of them having ever left their property, as if they are bound or stuck there as a result of this pact.
Oh, interesting. So there's no one can even remember them ever leaving. Oh, that's
Yeah.
intriguing. Okay, good. So we have just one question to start here. It's a very simple one, only complexity 2. Where is the angel's nest located? Once you answer that question, you unlock the next question, or the next set of questions. And so that is your other active assignment. Now, I want to tell you how this game works from a structural standpoint now that you have a couple of assignments that are active. You can just continue working on the Hungering Roots. There's no reason why you have to drop the Hungering Roots and go look into this new matter. You may have had these 2 assignments at the same time. I'm just now introducing the second one. In any case, you can choose to just not pay attention to it for now, focus on the Hungering Roots, and will be fine. Alternatively, you can decide, you know what, the Hungering Roots is pretty well in hand right now, or we're at a good stopping point. Let's get on the road. Let's go check out this situation with this Mother Angel and see what happens there. In which case, we then begin what's called the journey phase. Now, the journey phase is a special phase where we basically get to see the characters traveling from place to place. It's also your best opportunity for 2 or more characters to have an intimate moment with each other, and that's the most efficient way of clearing conditions. So if you have conditions you need to clear, that's the best way to do it. So unless you happen to have a pox monk with you, in which case the pox monk can help out with a lot of conditions as well. But in any case, that's sort of how it works. Alternatively, some of you can stay at the on the Withering Roots, and some of you can go to the Dusk Mother. You can split the party, so to speak, although you only have one vehicle. If the group that goes, they'll do all the journey stuff, while the other group just stays and continues doing investigation in the Hungering Roots. So that's sort of how you do it. But anytime any custodians move from one assignment to another, we do journey. And so that is sort of the deal as far as your 2 assignments go and how to move between them. Now, people who have played games that use my system before know that if you just leave something and don't deal with it, it gets worse and it gets more problematic. And your minders, your handlers in the bureau will probably let you know as things are getting bad. So you can't always just leave things untended, but you have to make strategic decisions sometimes. Especially because you have one car, and if you end up leaving somebody to do one, that you're kind of like abandoning them unless they steal a car or something, I suppose. So we left the well, first of all, are there any questions about any of the assignments or anything before we begin? Okay. So we left on a cliffhanger, basically, almost a literal cliffhanger, hanging from a building. Bastion was murdered by the Hungering Roots, but of course, Bastion is going to write a verse, either prophecy or history, in order to avoid that outcome. Bastion, have you chosen which you're going to do?
Yes, I have. I'd like to write a verse of history.
Very good. You can resolve that now if you want, or you can wait till later.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this earlier. I'll narrate it now. So I start with the first verse of history, a flashback to your childhood, showing your first direct encounter with a god. I've described previously that Bastian lived in a smaller town, and I think that there was an empty lot near where he lived that all the children would gather to play pickup games of baseball. There was a makeshift home plate, three bases, a bit of a pitcher's mound, in this kind of derelict lot. And they would play baseball there. And there were a few teams that formed over time and a bit of a rivalry that came about between them. And in order to gain an upper hand on the other kids and aping at what they'd seen their parents do in the rituals they would conduct throughout their daily life, they started certain habits, whether it be tapping the base or tugging on their sleeve or their hat or sending off a short prayer to the Lord of soaring straight and true. And over time of doing this, they started to feel the blessings from it. They would feel stronger. They would run faster. They would hit harder and more direct where they were aiming. And that's how it started, but it's not where it ended. After that had been going on for some time, each rival team trying to one up the previous one. Instead of, a mere prayer of thanks, they would leave a pile of crushed beetles or a small bird that they offered to the Lord of Flying of soaring straight and true. Uh, and eventually, one day, as an argument formed between the two teams, they actually like came to blows over this, pickup baseball game, and it was especially ferocious. The kids, clawing at each other, biting, a little bit of blood soaking into the ground, and all of them in that started to feel stronger, more feral, more warlike. And after the kids came home badly injured, I think that the parents disbanded the local league and didn't allow them to continue, playing that game. But eventually, custodians were dispatched to take care of the minor war god that had been awoken there by these kids in the neighborhood. And I think that was his first experience with custodians as well, seeing them come to try and take care of this thing that they brought forth.
Fantastic. Thank you. Let's pick up with Gail Van Wyck's apartment and Sybil and Theo. Sybil, you had kind of posed a question to Gail Van Wyck about the verdant mother, and I owe you a clue from that. And because you got such a good role, she's not going to press you on why followers of the Brethren of the Sacred Wheel need to know anything about the Verdant Mother, but she's just going to roll with that. And she says, after she sort of offers her tea. Now, it's unclear if this is the special tea that they make down in the warehouse or not, but she's sort of made this tea. It's hot tea, and she says, "Well, I try to remain very sensitive and open to signs of the verdant mother and all her seedlings. I think it's what makes me so good at my job. I'm actually a plant tender by trade. I do a little bit of work down in the warehouse from time to time, though I've sort of been in something of a loggerheads with management down there as of late. But that's neither here nor there. No, it's all about the signs, you see. Something you see that just looks perfectly common or ordinary in nature could absolutely be a sign from the Verdant Mother." And she says, for example, and she walks out to the little like kind of patio area on the, she's up on the second floor, say, and she says, "Look here." And she invites you to come out into the patio. I assume you do. She says, "These starlings," and she points out some birds, little starlings kind of hopping around. She says, "These starlings have been visiting my patio every day for the last week, and They get up to something right over there on the other side of that table. I feel like they're trying to tell me something. I think the Verdant Mother is trying to speak to me, or at least one of her seedlings. But I don't want to. I don't want to go look until they've finished with their work. I wonder now if right now is the time. Shall we go take a look?
Yeah.
Yes, I think we ought. And she takes you over there and she scoots this little table back and she goes, oh, there, see? And you can see more of the starlings kind of hopping around in almost like inebriated circles, like they're in some kind of weird reverie around a bunch of stolen berries and blossoms. She says, a sign from the Verdant Mother? Yes, possibly. Most likely,
Yeah.
even. I don't know how helpful that will be for your questionnaire, but. And then she moves the table back. But that's why I'm good at my job, because I don't disregard little signs like this. I know when the gods are speaking to us.
Yeah, I'm sure you're great at your job. You seem to be super in touch with the Verdant Mother, and you know, not everybody gets that. Is that possibly why you're having an issue with your manager?
Oh, that is a long and dreadful story, I'm afraid. And if you want to hear the whole thing, I'm going to have to make another pot of tea. What are you doing in the meantime, Theo?
uh, as like she as as Sybil is just going around like just talking about the signs like out on the patio, like I'm taking a look around like this apartment, seeing if like there's any like photos, any sort of like memorabilia from like say like hey, this is when they moved in like several years ago, and like just like pictures or anything of that nature.
I I think debating whether I want to give you an information move. I think go ahead and make the information move. Make it with reason, and let me take a look at your conditions. You have all things decay. No, I don't think that really applies. Go ahead.
Mhm. And this is insights.
Or insight, sorry, yeah.
Okay, that's good. That is a 7.
I think that I think I'm going to open up a new opportunity for you here.
Ooh.
You'll get a clue, but you have to kind of deal with this new thing.
Mhm.
You hear a knock on the door. Ms. Van Wyck? Ms. Van Wyck? Gail is currently caught up in a sort of fusillade of complaint about management down at the warehouse, and she has not noticed that someone is calling for her at her door. Theo, what do you do?
I'm going to answer the door to see like, hey, what's up?
When you answer the door, you see a young man wearing a colorful scarf, messenger bag. He has a shaved head. He says, "Oh, do I have the wrong apartment?"
Uh, I think you do have the right apartment. Gail is currently a little bit busy just having a conversation and making some tea right now.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Have you?
uh,
What do you think of that tea?
it's of an interesting taste. It's not the worst tea I've ever had.
Right, right. So can you just tell her that I have, and he kind of pulls out, I think he has like a bundle of like, he has a bundle of like some kind of package, like vegetables or something from the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says, I have those roots that she wanted down from the market. I had to, I say down from the market. I had to hike quite a ways to go get these. I've got sort of got little bit of carrot. I've got some rutabaga, some potato. Is this for a dinner? Are you here for like dinner or something? What's going on?
Yeah, so for dinner a little later, not right now. It's a little bit too early.
Right. Well, here, you might want to take this. It's kind of a hassle. We have to go so far for stuff like this. Like certain things like just don't grow around here anymore.
Okay,
Like normal things, food things.
What does grow around here?
Oh, anything that helps make their precious, precious tea and whatever else they get up to down there. My name is Taj, by the way, Taj Siddiqui, and he goes, shake your hand. Errand runner extraordinaire. And he leaves the package with you, and he kind of like gives you kind of like a funny look. Like I think he's still like a little like curious about who you are, who you might be, and he leaves. That's your clue, though. Your clue is that certain types of things don't grow here anymore, despite the abundance of otherwise things growing in the area. Let's kick over to Bastion. So Bastion, you did not have your body rent in pieces by the hungering roots. Instead, a shame, I know. Instead, I think we're going to keep this pretty simple and say that I had an idea that maybe, you drop the butane lighter and the guy catches it, because that was your like little bit of leverage, and he just smiles and pockets it. Now that you've lost that little bit of leverage, but you can continue climbing up to the. You were climbing up to like a sign or something. Where were you climbing?
So I was climbing up to inspect the electrical system of the like lighting for the whole hydroponic setup.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so I think there's probably like a you can kind of like go into the sort of like interior of the building, and there's probably like a catwalk where they have like where they're running all the cables and all that kind of stuff. You can start looking through all that if you want.
Yeah, I'm just going to go over to what seems like kind of a junction or a bundle of those and wrap my gloved hands around them and try to, I'm assuming, sense the waves of the Saint Electric within. I'm gonna try to figure out if they're siphoning that power here.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I like that. That sounds like, well, is that triggering one of your moves, or is this just an information move?
It's just sort of flavor. I'm kind of imagining that I'm angling for information move.
Yeah, I love it. Information move. We'll let you do it with communion, though, which is not great for you.
I mean, I don't think I've rolled a stat I'm good at yet, so. Hey, fabulous dice, though. It's a 6 and a 5. It's 11 minus 1 is 10.
10. Nice. Very good. I will give you a clue. We'll come back to this. And Mercer, I think you've kind of made friends with this guy. His name is Avery Haddock. He is a security guard here at the warehouse. Now that you can kind of see him more clearly and not like while he's a sort of gibbering, slathering worshiper, he is wearing gray overalls. He has tight braids, combat boots, and he says, "So, are you here? Are you looking for work, or what's going on?"
I heard that you make really good tea here. Traveling on the road, I'm just tired of that commercial store-bought.
It's amazing. Product. It's amazing. Since trying the tea they make here, I quit drinking. My hairline stopped receding. I just have so much energy inside, all sorts of things. There's nothing like it. It feels like you're floating down river on a perfect moonlit night. Like wherever you're headed, things are going to be all right, You should definitely try it. Definitely give it a shot. I might be able to take you in. You could maybe, suckle from the source, as it were. I happen to have free reign around these parts, being security and all.
That's kind of you. I would love to try it. My friends back home might be interested too, if this is some sort of, if we could maybe
Oh,
buy
get a
some
little
from you.
distribution thing going. Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You should definitely talk to Mr. Haven. I mean, I think that would be great, but I'm not I'm not quite at that level, I'm afraid. But come this way, come this way. And he kind of takes you in through a side entrance. And now we're in the interior of the warehouse. And the first place he takes you through is the compost heap. Good times. It's very still, humid air, thick with fruitful decay. There are sodden floorboards kind of collapsing under a mountain of rotting vegetation and scattered soil. Spiraling tubes collect muddy green runoff in buckets for some unknown purpose. Let's paint the scene, everyone. What disturbing materials have been added to feed the soil?
I mean, I think if I found a rat in the compost earlier, I think there's a whole food chain. I think there's like meat, plants, like surplus, big animal bones, that kind of thing.
I think bouncing off of that idea, that's so the meat has been laid there for such a long time that mushrooms are growing up from it. I believe there's a type of mushroom that is called dead man's fingers, that is just growing out. It's not human flesh, at least you don't think it is.
I think there's like bits of prayer chalk in there.
I think the whole septic system for this abandoned mall runs into the plant feeder stuff, harvesting, the output of the people who work here to serve the plants as well.
The man says, so, apologies for taking you through here first. It didn't used to be like this. It actually used to be a tennis shoe store. And he kind of points around. You can see like kind of some old faded signage for shoes blessed by the god of, what is it? Flying straight and narrow, or
Oh, nice.
It's soaring straight and true.
Soaring straight and true. Yeah, exactly. Things like that. Somebody, smashing a baseball, right? He says, there's of course the central growing room. That's the the sort of the main sort of warehouse area. Used to be a big department store, and then over in that direction we've got there's a processing room, and that over there. There's some, intake, outtake. He's kind of just pointing things out, like just kind of willy nilly. And he's very proud of he knows the way around and he's the one showing you. But you're getting this very strange vibes from some of the workers, right? The people you see kind of milling back and forth. What strange vibes are they giving you, Mercer?
Jumping off of what we've seen a little bit before, I think it's just like uncanny, a little bit off, not quite human mannerisms, kind of just like, I think swaying almost like a plant, like this little bit kind of weird posture, a little bit like they're growing there themselves.
Yeah, I love it. So what do you do?
This is really impressive. I mean, all these buildings, these kind of places all fall to ruin, but you've really grown something new here. You brought life into this place, and you know how all this works. I would be very curious to see, how this. I just drink the tea, right? I don't know how this works, but I'd love to see your process a little bit and kind of see if I can poke around again, see where the water sources are, and
he says, "Well, come with me. Come this way. I you might want to speak to hey, Leo. This is Leo Mescal. He's one of the harvesters. I'm sure he'd be able to Leo, and he kind of like introduces you as, he just like makes up a whole backstory for you. You're just this guy, this like, you're this person who's looking to do like get into distribution of the tea. You're from another region, and all this other stuff he's kind of going off about. He's filled in all these things, and he kind of like adds on the sly. He says he's he really knows, he really understands how to consume, you know. And Leo kind of gives him a funny look, and Leo he's got long black hair, red bandana. It's kind of scowling at Avery, and he says, Avery, there's some guy who I believe is checking out the power, some person from the State Electric. Will you go? Maybe you should go deal with him. He didn't have any kind of documentation or paperwork, and I think that's your job. And Avery's like, oh yeah, I'm on it. And he leaves you with this. He leaves, and it's just Leo and you now.
Inspectors, such a pain. My friends, work the fishing boats, and just slows everything down. You know.
Yeah. This, well, I mean, this is. So you're looking to like buy the tea, I guess, and distribute it.
I just hear it's the best, and with using the river, maybe we can work together. Distribute up and down a little faster, and I just have friends who've been wanting to get something more organic, more from the source.
Do you have any kind of like markings on your hand or your face or anything that would show that you are a somewhat lapsed follower of the Trawler Man?
I'm sure I've got some scars, fishing hooks or things like that. Maybe I don't wear them literally. Yeah.
I think he will, when you say the river, he'll kind of look at you like, yeah, the river. Okay. Right. Well, well, what is there to say? I mean, the god that we have here, this harvest god, it's incredible. I mean, it just wants to grow and grow. It's almost like it's somehow personally committed to producing the most interesting seeds, the most interesting plants. It's like it's trying to outdo itself. We can barely keep up with its gifts. We just do our best to process it and see what we can do with it, make it into something fantastic. It's incredible.
That is incredible. I mean, I'm especially interested in more a personal relationship. Like you talked about, some gods you can only get it from the corporation that owns it all, and then some, like here you've got your own operation that has a connection to you. If people were to take plants of this, would this grow elsewhere? Could we maybe even set up a system of selling the plants themselves? People could grow their own tea, and it might be a good opportunity.
And I think at this point, I want you to make the veiled move to see if you can get him to drop his guard and really show you the good stuff.
Yeah.
What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail, though?
That it'll be like with Bastion, like, where's your documentation? What are you really doing?
Yeah, okay.
Suspicious.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
probably with presence, I'd say.
Good.
Although you are getting sick, I think it's maybe going to like mess you up a little bit. But you said you're going to miss anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to this. So Sybil and Theo, I'm not sure how much more there is to know about or to get from Gail Van Wyck. The gist of her story, though, is just that she kind of fundamentally disagrees with how commercial the activities have gotten down there. It originally was just something that was kind of a local thing. It was a way to, they made just enough to like support themselves. And now it's just getting a little out of control. She has just a problem with how commercial it's become. I'm not sure that really speaks much to the god itself. But maybe it does. I don't know. It's interesting context in any case. this
Alright.
Taj person is probably in a, or Raj is Raj. This Raj person is in a, known as Taj, is in a good place to have talked to other people as an errand, as an errand runner. There's also, I will tell you that, I think you'll start to notice that people are not hiding like they were before. I think they think the danger of someone asking them questions about something has passed. In fact, you see an old woman kind of come out onto her balcony next door, and she even gives you like a friendly wave. And then she kind of goes back in. There's also a kid kind of poking around down below in the little courtyard. So what do the two of you do?
Well, I wonder what other information that the rest of our compatriots have found out. Hopefully they've had a productive afternoon like we've had.
Yeah, so I assume you would brief me on what the errand guy said.
Yeah.
And presumably we would get the routes over to her. Yeah, and I think maybe checking with the others is a good idea. I would have liked to talk to the errand guy a bit more, but he's probably gone.
He's
So
probably still around. I think you can probably find him. He's probably he probably does errands for lots of people in this building. It's his
okay.
job.
Yeah, we probably pass them on like the way out of like the apartments.
Yeah, yeah, so Taj, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just wondering, are you from around here?
He's like, yeah, I actually do live in this building. I was actually going to university in Glottage for a little while, but that didn't quite work out, and so now I'm here. And he kind of holds up a big steaming sack of like something very greasy and very, very carnal smelling, with a big stamp of the chitterling on the bag. Right?
Oh, DoorDash.
Yeah, he's like doing a little DoorDash, he's doing a little this, little that, and he says, "I need to go drop this off 1 second. If you could just give me a minute." And he goes
Yeah, no
and
problem.
knocks and drops off, and he comes back and says, "Yeah, so what's your deal? I know Gail Van Wyck, and there's no way she's having guests for dinner."
Okay. I figure I probably should just be honest with him. Yeah, so we're actually investigators. We're trying to figure out what's going on with this god of psychotropic tea, and we're a little bit worried that it might get out of control and harm people. So we wanted to assess that.
Okay. Interesting. I might know something about it.
Yeah, so about how long has there been issues with growing food here?
I think at this point, you're going to have to make the information move, probably with presence, or not presence. Yeah, presence.
Okay, sure. All right. Just a sec. Okay, I got a 10.
Interesting. Good. We'll come back to this. What are you doing in the meantime, Theo?
I think as like Sybil seems to be going just talking to like this guy, like I think I'll just head outside proper. And do we have I actually don't know the actual timeline. I'm assuming we have cell phones and that sort of thing.
I don't think you actually do.
Okay.
Gabriel, my understanding is that there are such things, but it would be quite rare in the setting. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's one of those. If
Oh,
there is technology, it's probably really inconvenient or complicated because of gods.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
That's fair.
yeah. You do phones are a thing you can do. Like there are
Like a
ways of making
payphone or
calls.
landline.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, hmm. Yeah, I think I'll just go check on the van, seeing that no one's there yet. I'm probably going to try to go to the the whatchamacallit, the warehouse sort of types of deals to try to like find the rest of the group.
Yeah, I mean, you can just walk over there.
Yeah.
It's all fairly close. The warehouse, which is just a repurposed shopping
Mm.
mall. Yeah, I love that. Okay. Um, we'll come back to that. Let me check in with Bastion. Bastion, here's your clue. You find a sort of a big cluster of instruments and cables up on this like catwalk thing that's sort of feeding the growing room, or where the power is kind of coming to feed the hydroponics and stuff in the growing room. And the growing room itself has like plastic sheeting like over it, so you can't quite look down into it, but you can see this power situation. And your clue is this. There's actually an antique bronze sundial with each hour etched with a prayer mark and trailing copper conductor wires that is sort of connected to the rest of this electrical system. It's a strange detail. Certainly nothing of the Saint Electric. But that's the clue. What do you do at that point?
Yeah. Since it's connected up to this power distribution system and it's not, sanctified by the saint, I think Bastion's just gonna like sever all of them. He's gonna disconnect it. This is not standard. They're siphoning power from the Saint Electric. This is exactly what he feared. And he's with a degree of righteousness, I think he's going to try to cut the wires and sever that connection.
Is there something else? Are you trying to accomplish something in addition to that, or is this pure just like righteous?
I think, well,
behavior?
I say righteous. We're all sort of distanced from our
A little bit,
gods.
yeah.
So I think it's like self-righteousness or even like an attempt to get in good graces. But I think in support of the assignment as well, like if they're pulling power from the Saint Electric to, juice their operation, or at least that's what Bastion thinks, then severing that will maybe arrest the growth of the god long enough for us to do something about it. So
I like that. Yeah, I'm into it. Go ahead and let's do the, I think it's still the veiled move. Do tell me what you're afraid is going to happen if you fail.
I'm worried that someone's going to see Bastion doing this, because like currently he's up here, but I know that somebody, metagaming wise, I know somebody was sent after him. Other people could be watching.
Yeah, and you have
So
the condition of threat. So
yeah, I'm worried that people are going to find out that Bastion did this before he has a chance to hide his tracks and get out of here. So
yeah, I think because of your condition as well, I'd like for you to roll this at disadvantage, but go ahead and do it with focus.
Okay. Ooh. 1, 2, 3 on the dice, so that's a 3 on the lower two, minus or plus 1. It's a 4.
Yeah, I think this is what happens. I think you go to sever this whole system, just shut the whole operation down, essentially. And when you do, let me see here how I want this to be set up. Because I've got like a couple of misses on the table, right? I think Mercer's got a miss, and Bastion's got a miss as well. So interesting. I think there's a way I can probably combine them. And there's also the fact that Theo is heading over as well to the warehouse. Let's take a quick break. Let's take our first break now so I can think about this. Let's take 5 and we'll come back and we'll resolve the scene. So, Sybil, Taj doesn't seem to know much about the ins and outs of what's going on with this growing operation. Only that ever since this got underway, it's really sort of it's become something of an obsession.
Oh my God, there's a cat. Sorry to interrupt.
It's become an
There's a cat
obsession with
now.
some of the people who are there, who live and work in the area, and so Taj is not being. He doesn't seem to like know too much as far as that goes, but he, as you're having this conversation with him, you start to notice that the lights, the sort of like sodium lights that are always turned on in the kind of like breezeways of the tenement building, they start to get much brighter, so bright that you can even see them kind of in the day here. And I've mentioned before that there are a bunch of like sort of vines and flowers growing up and around the building. And the flowers, at the moment that those sodium lights are kind of getting brighter, the flowers, their color becomes more vibrant, kind of pink, like even brighter, hotter pink, brighter, hotter yellow. And this behavior is a clue. Indeed, it is your clue. And this is happening right as Bastion starts to fiddle with the electrical system at the growing room. And Mercer, also at that precise moment, I think Leo Mescal is, he wants to show you around. He wants to like, he wants to show you around. He wants to like, kind of give you the ins and outs. In fact, he's kind of going on at some length about, he's kind of saying, if you see here, and he's kind of showing you just like plants that are growing around that aren't even in the growing room. He's like, have you ever seen anything like this? One season, it gave us these little berries, hot as chilies, got you real fired up. And then like later, it just like changed. Like they become sort of, it started giving us like these sort of like ice flowers, like numbed you or kind of put you to sleep. And now we have these sort of fungal blooms. They're very aggressive. This harvest god just wants to grow and grow. And it's almost like it doesn't even like, it doesn't know what to do with itself, or it's so, it just wants to, it's changing. It's like it's trying to like do new things. It's really something. And then at this point, right when Bastion is messing with the power, you will start to notice that the flowers creeping about in this sort of, you're kind of in the hallways that connect up the different buildings. They don't just glow brighter, they start to become almost like the petals become mirrored and they begin to shimmer. I would even say they like shimmer and change color to reflect your mood, which is what right now, Mercer?
Eager, I think, to really get something out of this situation, and not for things to go wrong. Not wanting to mess this up.
Yeah, I think that they are also, I think they're, to reflect your mood, they're like shimmering like different colors and fast. like with excitement, right? And you don't even realize that you've been lulled into a trance. Leo says, of course, I'd like to take you to the growing room, but if you don't have some kind of documentation or some kind of, I just need something to kind of prove that you are who you are, just in case anybody starts, hey, are you there? Are you still with me? And he's kind of looking around and he's trying to get somebody's attention, but no one's around. And that's because there are a bunch of people currently climbing to the catwalk up behind Bastion. Theo, you're in a interesting situation because you were able to walk right in because everyone's so distracted. You see people who are clearly going up to this like upper space where you see Bastion. So Bastion's probably in trouble. And down the way, you see Mercer in some kind of trance. And what are you going to do, Theo?
Oh, well, I can't help Bastion because Bastion's like I'm off the ground and like having like a half dozen odd people after him. So that's probably I can't do anything right now, but Mercer I can do something about, hopefully. So I'm going to go over to Mercer, see like if is this like a physical condition or what have you. Like I know like it's like with the flowers and all, but like can I tell it is the flowers?
Yeah, give me just 1 second.
Okay.
That's cool. I was like thinking about marking a verse, but it's so much more interesting to see what the pox monk can do with this.
Mm-hmm. My cat keeps trying to lick my toes. So like if you're seeing me just look down, it's just my cat.
By the way, what is that beast's name?
Bug. He has a longer name, but that's what he's normally called.
What's his longer name?
Sir Colonel Ferdinand Fluffybottom III.
Okay.
All
That's
right.
a great name.
We're still recording.
Excellent.
So there are people who are listening to this
Okay.
as if it was a podcast. So
They need this information.
So Theo, I like your approach here. I think it's very wise. Given the circumstances. Think about this for a minute. So you said what you were going to do is just see if like you can snap him out of it, like if it's some kind of condition or something.
Yeah,
okay.
If it's some sort of condition, I have a feeling it might become a condition.
Yeah. Love that. Okay, so what do you do?
Yeah, I'm like snapping my fingers, like looking into his eyes, like.
Yeah, Leo looks at you and he says, "I don't know what's going on. He's like, it must be. He's like, where did everybody go?
Towards the catwalks. It seems as though someone got a little bit too excited about the Saint Electric's influence over here, and like I'm pointing out Bastion. I know that guy. He gets a little bit too excited about things, and it's honestly probably a little bit of mistake. He probably got into an area that someone allowed him in, but then he thought he was like allowed to go everywhere, and that's just not the case. It's just an honest mistake, and I really hope that things can be sorted out soon.
Yeah, let's see how they get sorted out. Bastion, unless you want to write another verse, you're gonna have to deal with this.
Oh, I want to deal with this.
Okay, how do you deal with it?
This is fun. I think
you can hear them climbing up.
Oh yeah.
No,
I think Bastion, he had this self-righteousness. He was approaching it. He'd got some cutters or something. He was like starting to try to saw at the wires, and then he hears the people climbing, and he looks and sees them coming up. And we've described them as having like this uncanny unison that they move in, this connection between them. And I think he immediately goes pale. All that confidence drained from him. Even drops the cutters to the floor, to clattering there on the catwalk. And behind him is the green room, right? Like it's below as well, I believe. Like,
Yeah, you're directly above. We're gonna say you're directly above the growing room right now,
Okay.
which you can't look down into because they have plastic like sheeting over the top of it that the cables just kind of run through, right?
Perfect. He's gonna start muttering. So I have as his personal ritual reciting poetry. So like I've slowly been collecting some poetry that he's gonna quote throughout. I've got a short. I think he's gonna basically start reciting a like a prayer to this god. He's like totally switched gears in realizing he's been caught in the act of trying to cut this. He's going to turn and I guess fall to the god, and he's going to quote like a myriad twinning life, like interlacing vines, binds all thy vast domain. As rain falls from the heaven and vapors rise from the earth, so have the precious values fallen upon thee and risen out of thee, thou envy of the globe, thou miracle, thou bathed, choked, swimming in plenty. And as he like gets to that crescendo, he's just gonna jump off the catwalk onto the tarp on top of the the green area and pray that this god, one way or another, catches him.
Wow, that's quite a move. I think that's the revelation move. What are you afraid is going to happen if your prayer's not answered?
I mean, he could always just be food for the god.
Yeah,
that would be rough.
That would be rough. I think that it's worse than that. I think that the hungering roots will use your connection, however tenuous it may be at this moment, to the Saint Electric to further power itself. So if you are okay with that, you can proceed to roll with communion.
Yeah, let's go for it. Well, once again, the dice have not failed me. This is a 6 and a 4. That's 10 minus 1 is 9.
Okay, so interesting. I think it's just not going to be as like. I don't think it's going to be as like dramatic and as you hope. You are not caught by a pillowy frond of plant life that gently sets you down. I think you just land on one of these like plastic sheets and like slide down to safety, but drop into the growing room, which is pretty empty right now because the workers who are on site all kind of went out to follow you up. And so we'll come back to you in a moment. We'll check in with Mercer and Theo in a bit. Let's check in with Sybil. Sybil, Taj says, well, I got to get going. He says, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do you know about, what do you know about all the power outages that have been going on in these sort of outer ring cities and towns?
Should I make like a roll for that, or
No,
would I
you just tell me
know?
whatever you think. Yeah. He says, because I've heard there's this new god in the outer cities. So, the Saint Electric only delivers when you pay your tithes, or buy her new appliances or whatever, right? But this new outer god actually siphons that power for people like us. Like when you're hot wiring a car or rigging a satellite or something like that, this god steps in and helps. I'm not saying that god is at work here. You didn't hear that from me. But
That's interesting.
And he says, yeah, so good chatting with you. And he just
So I wanna ask him the name of the god. Don't worry, I didn't hear it from you. Is it another mother? There seems to be a lot of mothers lately.
He says, I don't know. I've just heard rumors. I don't know what they call it. I'm sure it's got like every other god's probably got a dozen names. But it's just something that people don't talk about around here. So maybe I thought you might know something, because I definitely don't. And he leaves.
Okay.
Good luck with whatever you're here doing.
Yeah, thanks, and you too.
So what do you do then, Sybil?
So I'm just gonna take some notes about that. And then I'm gonna go and try and find the others. So I guess I'd head over to the warehouse
Yeah, you'll hear some
factory.
commotion. I mean, you'll hear some commotion, like the exact precise nature of the commotion isn't known to you yet, but it is related to the fact that Bastion has just dived down into the growing room. Meanwhile, Theo and Mercer. So Theo, this is really interesting. Do you have the ability to, like, your move that lets you take on conditions, physical
Yeah.
conditions can be cleared by passing them to you. I think
Mhm.
just to make this interesting, I think what might be making Mercer vulnerable here is the fact that Mercer is physically ill. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Mercer would probably have access to his full faculties and not be affected by this in this way. You can,
Mhm.
you're, as a pox monk, you're probably good at like seeing the signs of the illness. So do you want to
Mhm.
transfer this physical condition to yourself?
Yes, please.
All right, let's read your move. So physical conditions do not cause you to roll at disadvantage. Great for you. And other custodians can clear physical conditions by passing them to you in a ritual of transference, provided you have time and a reasonably safe space to do so. It actually is reasonably safe because, again, the workers are all distracted. So
Thank
when
you,
you transfer
Bastion.
a physical condition from a custodian to yourself, or a physical ailment from a side character to yourself, noting it as a condition on your sheet, roll with vitality. So go ahead and roll with vitality. Let's see how that goes.
Mhm. Oh, not bad. That is a 9.
On a hit, you get to choose one from the list below, and there are some options there.
I'm going to say to not make things more complicated for us because the situation already is extremely complicated. The ritual does not attract unwanted attention.
Indeed. So go ahead and describe it. What does this look like?
I think like Mercer is just like in this sort of dazed states, like he's just sweating. It's just very warm for him. And like I managed to just like sort of like ease him down to the ground and I lay his like and I sit down like cross-legged and sit his head upon my lap and I just am stroking his hair and I'm saying some prayers to the pox martyr to basically it should have been me. It should have been me that had this. It should have been me that holds this burden. And I take this illness and I begin to sweat and that I can hold this burden for Mercer.
Nice. Very good. Mercer, how does it feel to have the Poxmartyr's touch upon you?
I mean, it's immediately a relief. I think Mercer wouldn't, he wouldn't be eager to say so. He'd probably be like, "I'm fine." But I think it's that soothing, calming, just feels like coming up out of a muddy river, just clear air, clear breeze again. He can breathe better.
Fantastic. Good. Mercer, you come out of it, and those mirror-like scintillating flowers recede, and Leo says to you, Theo, he says, "You're a pox monk." It's like,
Yes.
I've actually got this really nasty lesion inside my mouth. Can I show it to you?
Sure, let's take a look. How can I help?
We'll just cut there. And Bastion, you are down in the growing room. Let's look at the growing room, and there are potted shrubs and flowering vines that carpet the floor, tables and shelves, and a wall-to-wall explosion of greenery. Dazzling overhead bulbs rigged to a chaotic web of repurposed wiring and electronics, as you know, bathe the room in artificial sunlight while rotating fans give the impression of a gentle breeze. Everyone, how does this space invoke a sense of euphoria and timelessness?
I think that because of all of the plastic tarping and stuff surrounding it, it's pretty insulated from the rest of the building and like the currents of air and the sounds of any kind of machinery or people milling about. And so with the fans, like it's the only motion in here is caused by that gentle, consistent, stable breeze. And everything else, sensorily speaking, just kind of falls away in this space.
The plants themselves are being grown in dirt, but however, above the dirt there is this layer of fine white sand. And as far as you can tell, Bastion, there are no footprints in it. And like you can see these long wooden rakes that seem to just almost be used to like cover anyone steps in here.
I'm gonna say the smell is different for everyone, and to me it smells like the library I went to as a kid.
You're just looking down, and immediately around you, because it's covering the ground and wall to wall foliage, it feels like you're just walking through an endless garden. You feel like you could go on forever.
I will say, Bastion, as you get to your feet, as you're taking this kind of wondrous place in, as you're getting to your feet, you realize that you twisted your ankle on the way down, and you kind of dropped to one knee very suddenly. But that's fairly well timed, because you drop out of sight of people who are entering the growing room. I'm going to cut over to Sybil. Sybil, we're going to fast forward and say that you're kind of up. You're in this sort of like, you're kind of approaching the mall. Again, you've got kind of free run of the place because the sort of infected followers are wandering about the catwalk presently, trying to find out what happened to this interloper. In any case, they're generally distracted. And also, because the boss is here, you see a man with a inexplicably clean suit, given this environment, a fresh undercut, occult tattoos, and he walks with that like stride of like, I'm in charge, And I think he just sees you, Sybil, and he goes, you're from the paper in Glottage, right?
Yes.
I'm your man, Haven. Good to meet you. He doesn't even ask for your name. Now, follow right this way. Come. And he's like, kind of just leads you on. And he just takes you right into the growing room. Now, what we're doing here is revolutionary. You can use that word in your piece, revolutionary.
Okay.
We're truly bridging worlds. I know how that sounds, but think about it. What if you could be a part of the same rituals your ancient ancestors practiced while being among the first to pilot the rituals of the future? It's amazing, right? Nod your head. It's amazing. Instead of seasonal rituals, we're giving this god 24/7 worship through automated prayer mark integration and a robust sacrificial program that adapts to changing conditions on the ground. In exchange, it grants us unprecedented results that actively evolve with our offerings. You can use that exact line. Unprecedented results that actually evolve with. Shouldn't you be writing this down?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was just so distracted by how amazing it is.
As I was
pull out
saying,
my notebook and I started scribbling it down.
unprecedented results that actually evolve with our offerings, so the specs of each small batch tea reflect the unique qualities of local sacrifices. It's incredible what we're doing here. Bastion, this is what's walked in as you drop behind a table or something with your twisted ankle, which is a condition, by the way. And so this guy, Haven, is just going on.
Yeah. Bastion climbs under the table to hide. Well,
He says, so, terrific. He's like, that's really interesting pen you've got there. Sorry, I
Oh
didn't get your
yeah.
name.
I'm I'm Rose. I mean, us at the paper, we like the sort of retro feel. But anyways, tell me more about this amazing god.
Yeah, but is that like a quill? Is that like a pot of ink that you're writing with?
Yeah, like I said, we like our god has been around for a very long time, and it likes the sort of old-fashioned writing utensils. When we try and use like a typewriter or anything, it really just doesn't work.
Can I have a bottle of that ink?
No, sorry, it's sacred to the the god of quills
I
and
just,
writing,
I might be more willing to open up to
quills and
you.
press.
I might be more willing to open up to you if you let me have a little bit of that sacred ink. I can tell just by looking at it that there's something really special about it. I wonder if it's
I'm putting it away immediately.
indeed. I
Can
will
I
say
can I
though,
roll like
that if you mark ink because you have an ink track, if you mark an ink by giving him some, I will let you have advantage on the uh, on the roll to convince him to talk. Right?
yeah, Sybil does not wanna give him the ink. Um but uh um yeah, so
He says, "Well,
I'm
that's
sorry,
neither
but
here nor there."
it's sacred to our god, so sorry.
No worries,
I,
no worries.
I could, but I'd need to fill out a bunch of paperwork. So maybe later you can come back to the office and fill it out.
Never mind. In any case, what we're doing here, absolutely incredible stuff. Now, and I think at this point, just do the information move with focus because even though it wasn't your intention, you're there under false pretenses.
Okay. Yeah, I got a 9 plus 1 is 10.
Nice. Yeah. I'll give you a clue in a bit. Bastion, what are you doing?
Bastion's trying to stay out of sight. I mean, he's here, he's under one of these tables. I think he also might be like with a pocket knife or something, trying to cut off bits of the plants as samples.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's pretty good. I'll take that as an information move with reason.
Sure. One dice on the table. 2 dice on the table. It's a 6 on the dice, and my reason is hopefully +1. That'd be great.
Or not reason, insight. Sorry.
Insight. Yes, my insight is +1, so that is a 7. Relief fills my body.
Indeed. We'll come back to that as well. Theo and Mercer, you're there. Are you going to help Leo with his abscess in his mouth?
Yeah, sure. That's no problem.
What does that look like?
I think quite literally I stick my fingers into this guy's mouth and I just take the abscess into my own mouth of just like absorbing it through like sort of skin touch as I'm just like rubbing the abscess. It's pretty gross, I would say.
It does indeed seem pretty gross. You can make the roll.
Okay. I'm not sure if does this work on side characters?
It absolutely does because you would take their sickness as a condition.
Okay. Again, I need to up my vitality. That is a 7.
A 7. So on a hit, you get to choose one.
I think since I'm helping this guy out, just for free, effectively, I am going to gain an insight about the illness in the form of a clue, and I get to tell you what it is.
Oh, very interesting. Oh, very, very interesting. Is that oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, I
Love
think
that. Okay, well, you get to describe the clue. Do you want time to think about it, or do you got it?
I got it.
Okay.
As like I'm rubbing around, I realized that the abscess had formed because like something got caught in like his cheek, and I pull it out, and this is a very sharp glass thorn.
Very interesting. That's a great clue. You do have to take an abscess as a condition, though, or mouth sore, or however you want to call it. Mercer, what are you doing right now?
So when there's a chance, Mercer, I want to like build on that conversation with Leo for a second and just take him aside if possible. Like, look, um, what I'm getting at with all this is I'm also here for personal reasons. I'm interested in, and maybe I could have negotiate, get a piece of this plant. I'm just fascinated by this idea of growing something for yourself. And I think he's just going to be upfront and say, like, look, me and my associates here, technically we're under contract with the Bureau, the Bureau for the Investigation and Assimilation of Stray Deities, but they don't care what happens here. They're just sending us to check things out. And between you and me, they might be sending more people. There's rumors of what's going on here, but maybe we can kind of keep them out of the way here. If you can help me, get a piece of this business, I guess. Maybe wants to say that out of earshot of Theo, if possible.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm not even going to make you roll. He says, so do you want to see the original harvest altar? Where all the magic, so to speak, began?
If it's anything like these plants, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Right this way. And he leads you to, I think he leads you to a store that used to be, it was like a frozen yogurt shop, but I need somebody to tell me what the name of the frozen yogurt, the now defunct frozen yogurt god was.
Churning something with churning in it. I don't know.
Froyo pleasure, like for your I don't know.
The churned one.
The churned one, that's pretty good.
Churned one is good.
Yes. He takes you to a shop dedicated to the churned one. Indeed, you see the churned one. This is actually the sort of like, they have like there's always like an image of the churned one, right? And this is actually one of the sort of heretical offshoot sects of the churned one's religion, where the little frozen yogurt man is actually like a swirl of chocolate and vanilla, not just the one flavor. It was a big controversial thing at the time. Doesn't really matter. This god's dead now. But he takes you there, and as you step inside, well, let's go ahead and read the thing here. This harvest altar, when he takes you inside there, takes you behind all this like kind of, this, there's all these like, it has the look of like the churned ones, like, little shops, very like, it was originally brightly lit and pink, and very, very cool and pleasant, but now it's just dimly lit and has this sort of smell of both fecundity and decay, which is so prominent in this entire space. You actually see a haze of pollen and drifting spores in here, like snowflakes that, as you inhale them, they almost like fill you with like just raw elemental desire, if that makes sense. This harvest altar, when he takes you to it in the back, it's a massive earthenware pot etched in prayer marks, split and cracked violently by an explosion of blood-red tendrils and pale shoots. Rich black soil cascades from cracks in the cement underfoot, cradled by glistening bone-white roots. Let's paint the scene. How do the elements of this altar incorporate both ancient harvest rituals and innovations in modern sacrificial practices?
I think there's a timed sprinkler system to the side of it that has like is connected up, wired up to I think the same system that we saw we described earlier with the thing that was feeding the rats, and we had the fingers and all of the fecal, all that stuff. That same system has been piped here, and there's just a sprinkler head that on a timer periodically just does a and sprays down with that.
I think there are several monitors in this room, tracking just the heat, the humidity, and what have you. But on them to sort of dampen like any sort of lights, so it's not shining too brightly on this very sensitive plant. There's been cloaks and just fabrics layered on top of it, just to dim it enough. Sort of almost as though these monitors are priests and whatnot.
There's off to the side, there's like an IV bag, which drips blood just a drop at a time on the roots. Instead of just one sacrifice, it's continuous and slow.
So some of on the wall there's like plants that are like growing, like vines growing on the wall in the shape of like a prayer mark, and you can see that there's like a trellis that's like guiding them to grow that way.
Nice. Leo says, I know it's not much compared to, well, you haven't seen the growing room yet, but this is where it all got started. This is where we first made contact. What do you think?
This is impressive. You just, where did all these other things come from? How did you know it at once?
Well, it's a lot of trial and error, right? I mean, but the one thing you can always be certain of, and here he like closes the door behind you and locks it. The one thing you can always be certain of is a god must feed. And you get the distinct impression he means to feed you to
Nice.
said god. Let's cut over to let's go back to Sybil and Haven, this man, this chief sort of operations, head of growing operations. I owe you a clue, right? You got
Yeah.
10.
Also, the god is the herald's quill,
Oh, nice, good, like that. Yeah,
the god of quills and writing.
very good. You got a 10 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's just kind of going on. It's all this very like PR speak, right? Like he's trying to make sure that
Yeah.
you write the story that he intends for you to write, and all this other stuff is kind of going out, he's kind of going on, and you'll notice as you're kind of going around, there's this like kind of like jerry-rigged like electrical system that's kind of keeping this place going, right? And here's your clue. Within the black cables, there are fine green shoots of plant matter weaving in and out of the black electrical cables. A very unusual detail.
Plants growing in the like electrical cables?
It's like
Okay.
actually like growing in, and so there's like a connection with the electricity, seems. Bastion, you said you were trying to collect samples. What'd you get on your die roll?
That was a narrow 7.
A narrow 7. I think I'm going to put you in some danger here.
Reasonable.
I think so. You're kind of down on the ground because you're crawling around. I am going to give you your clue. You said you were taking cuttings, if I'm not mistaken. And some of the cuttings you find are strange because they've been charred. Like they've been burned. Pieces of the plants have clearly been burned. It's an unusual detail. And because it sticks out, that's your clue. Here is the problem that I'm going to pose to you. The problem is you've been perceived as a threat. The roots have had their eyes on you, so to speak, the whole time. They heard your little prayer, and I don't think they were buying it. But they do find you very interesting. Indeed. Kind of piggybacking off what Sybil discovered, you see some hot wires down on the ground with you, sizzling and popping. But the wires are being moved by the roots. It's almost like they're part of the root system. They're moving toward you. Now, you're a follower of the Saint Electric. I'm sure you don't have anything to worry about. Or do you? Do you fry crispy like other people, I wonder?
Maybe time to find out.
What do you do?
I think this is kind of a point of, it's both a sore point and a point of pride for Bastian, where if he sees an opportunity to be a conductor in hopefully of the Saint Electric, I don't think it's crossed his mind that this could not be the Saint Electric. He's going to try. And if the roots are manipulating this just feeds his theory that, they've been siphoning power from the Saint Electric. So if it's coming towards him, I think he's going to reach out a hand to try and grab hold of it and then set another one on, I think just like the plant bed above him on the table, and try to essentially like short its connection to it by serving as a new conduit.
Are you going to use your move here?
I am going to use my move here for sure. So I'm going to mark
a charge.
Mark charge on my sacred conduit to give myself advantage on this. Or roll even. I don't know if you think.
I think it's going to be even. Yeah, I think it's going to be even because of threat. Still better than disadvantage.
All right. What is this rolling with? Focus, communion,
vitality.
Oh yeah, vitality's good too.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for the vitality. That is again a narrow 7. Thankfully +1.
I'm gonna give you scorched flesh as a condition, but you otherwise pull this off. I didn't ask what you were afraid was going to happen, but I am curious. I think it was self-evident what was going to happen. I am curious though, like, what are you hoping will happen here though, like stakes wise?
I think Bastian is hoping to, and whether or not this is foolhardy or not, he's trying to sever the connection, the literal electrical connection between this god and its growing operations and the Saint Electric, and or whatever might be powering this. And so I think he's specifically trying to like serve as a short, which will then blow the breaker or whatever, and trigger the system.
And that happens. And I think the lights go out, plunging the growing room and probably other parts of this complex in the dark. Sybil, Haven says, God's darn it. I hope you will not mention in your story that the power randomly went out.
Does this happen? Has this happened before?
Well, obviously you have little ups and downs happen from time to time. He's like, my goodness, it's so dark in here. I and he's kind of like fumbling around, and you can tell he's trying to reach into your pack
Okay,
and steal some of
I'm
your
just
ink.
leaving. I'm getting out of there.
Yeah, you can. If you just leave, you can just leave. I won't require a roll. He's like, "Hey, where are you going?"
I'm a reporter. I have to do some investigation.
He's like, well, just uh, he's like, "Can someone please figure out what's going on here?" He's like just yelling, right?
Also, I want to know, did that guy suspect me of being with the wax and scrivener when I make a roll for
I
that?
don't think so. No, I don't.
Okay,
I
he
don't get
just
the
really
impression.
wanted that ink, I
Yeah,
guess.
I think he just detected that there was something special about it, right? Because he's mentioned how they're doing all kinds of like basically like sacrificial experiments here. I think he's always just looking for like some new angle, right? Some new thing to try with this harvest god to see what it can produce. Theo, you might run into Theo on your way out, Sybil. I think the two,
Yeah,
put the two
I'm
of you
trying to find the
together.
others.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Sybil.
Hey, what's up, Theo? That guy was weird as
Oh, okay. I was not. I was in another room, and I've been talking to some of the people worked here. I did see Mercer.
Okay, let's just brief each other on what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can catch each
Uh,
other up, and you don't have. Yeah, we always assume that you kind of share all your information.
Yeah.
Once you've done that,
Mhm.
that's when some of these workers start to come back down into the main thoroughfare of the complex. And at this point, with the power going out, with people jumping off catwalks, with all kinds of crazy shit happening, they do not want any outsiders at this point, and they are approaching the two of you rapidly and angrily. What do you do?
All right. It may be time to go at this point. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we should define the others, right? Like,
yeah,
I think that should be our priority.
yeah, like I can handle that. That's no problem.
Could
Do you
Bastian be
know?
limping quickly out of the growing room towards the two of them?
I think you, yeah. I think that's something you can do. Let's cut over to Mercer briefly. Mercer, Leo Mescal, how can you tell now that he has been infected by this harvest god? It's
I
taken
think
root in him.
his eyes are sort of bloodshot, but they're almost like little purple, like they're changing hues the way those petals did before.
He has a very sharp looking spade in his hand. And he says, "A god must feed." And he's getting ready to plunge it in you. What do you do?
I'm gonna I'm gonna try to basically fight him and throw him into the roots first, or even better, if there's any water tank, or if I can do it in style, so much the better. Drown him, but if not, then I just want it rather him than me, you know.
I like the idea of there being a big water tank in here. I think that's interesting, especially if you can work in like. Do you have a move that would help you with the trawler man?
I get a benefit if I can pull it off, but I don't know if it directly helps me. If I can sacrifice him from the land to the water, then my next move is an advantage.
Okay, so if you can pull this off, then the mouth devouring will.
Yeah.
Well, okay, good.
Comes
I like it. Yeah,
back.
we'll say there's a big water tank there.
Nice.
That is like it's like more like a trough, so it's low, so you can grab him and toss him in. I love this. I think it's the revelation move. It's going to be with vitality. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That I would be sacrificed to a god I don't even know. That's just kind of insulting to me, I think.
And I have to say how it's worse than you fear. Your sacrifice will cause you to be turned into a saint of the Hungering Roots. Go ahead and roll with vitality.
I would like to mark my collection of hooks and lures to just like throw this and hook into him and tangle him up, maybe.
Oh, nice. Okay, mark it, and you can roll with advantage.
Okay. All right. That is 11, actually.
Nice. You have control of the scene here. What happens?
So Leah lunges, at Mercer. Mercer somehow can pull out these kind of tangled collection of hooks and bits of fishing wire, hooks onto him and drags him towards this trough and just says, what better offering than one who's already well acquainted? I think you are the one that it really wants. But let's make this a real celebration for a moment. Let's do this traditionally. I see you're trying to work traditions in here. And Mercer will plunge him into the water and bring in his own bit of tradition for a moment and just start to recite, looking into the water as he's struggling, and just says, bear me away into black depths, trawler man. I will forget my pain and the name I once wore. Rise like a dark river in my throat, trawler man, and my drowning lungs will sing of tides and flesh.
What did you get on your die roll?
11.
If you want to write a verse, could be a good opportunity to do it. I'll let you bump it to a 12, and I'll give you a clue as well.
That sounds great. I'll do it.
Let's see. Let me get your clue. Something that you would learn upon this sacrifice. A sacrifice to sort of the trawler man and the hungering roots in their way. I think some of these bone-like roots at your feet part upon completion of this sacrifice, with Leo floating face down in the trough. And underneath these bone-like roots, there's a dog-eared farmer's almanac, the margins full of hurriedly scrawled notes. It is a clue, but you can also add it to your altar.
I might like this. Books or something.
Yeah, I think probably. So now, at this point, we have how many clues on the assignment?
10 clues.
10. That's a good amount.
A lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I think you're probably ready to answer one of these questions in terms of the number of clues. Why don't we take a 10-minute break so that you can think about which question you want to answer and which clues you're going to use and how you're going to use it. I'll remind you that there are no canonical solutions to these questions. You can answer, the answer is whatever you come up with, and then roll some dice to see if you're right. But what you can do with the clues is you can add any extra context, and this last clue is a great example of that. I never said what's written in the margins of the almanac. You can say what's written in the margins of the almanac so that it supports your theory for what the answer to the question is, right? So, and I'll remind you that the hardest of the questions comes with a special move as well, if you do it. So you have enough clues to knock the other two out of the park, but if you go for the harder one, you get a special move in addition to figuring out how to resolve the assignment. So we'll take 10. Give you some time to think about these clues, and then we'll come back, get the group together, and see if you're ready to answer this question or not. So I'll see you in 10.
Sounds great.
Okay, so we're going to answer a question, and I'll read the move now just so that people who are watching the video can understand what's about to happen. Answer a question. This move is only available in the investigation phase, which we're in. The custodians must have gathered a number of clues equal to at least half the question's complexity. We have way more than that. When the custodians have an open, freewheeling discussion about the answer to a question and reach a consensus, you will roll plus the number of clues incorporated into the answer or otherwise explained away, minus the complexity. And so basically you start at For example, on the third question, you start at -8 and then you work your way up to try to get a bonus on the roll. The roll is made for the entire group. It's just one roll, and there's no other bonuses that can be applied to it. On a 10 plus, the answer is correct and you can pursue the opportunity. On a 7 to 9, as above, but I will add an unwelcome complication to the answer, or pursuing the opportunity will be more dangerous. On a miss, the answer is incorrect and I will react. On a 12 plus, the answer is correct, as in a 10, but the story is also connected to the conspiracy. Someone from the conspiracy will reveal themselves to the custodians while they are pursuing the opportunity. So let's review the clues. Well, let's review the questions first. How is the harvest god most vulnerable? That's a complexity 4. This is the straightforward approach. How do we kill this thing, basically? And that's what it is. Alternately, on a complexity 6, what resources does this harvest god offer if appeased? This allows you to actually work with the growers to adapt their methods and establish a more sustainable operation that does not threaten the community. Now, you have gotten in pretty bad with most of the people who are here at the facility, but, maybe Gail Van Wyck, or Taj, or some of the friendlier elements can be compelled to take over. Finally, you could answer the third question, which is, where can this harvest god be safely transplanted? That's a complexity 8. That allows you to break this god from its confines, allowing it to grow freely and showing the local residents how to coexist with it. This approach unlocks a special move, the Mark of Quickening. So, our clues is, the first clue is that there could be a connection here to the Verdant Mother, a bigger harvest goddess who spreads her seeds far and wide. The seeds become local gods. Most likely this particular roots god is a seed. There's also some graffiti that says we reject the Verdant Mother, somewhere in the vicinity. A quote, all things decay but bring forth new life. An observation of some starlings hopping around some blossoms and berries in almost like a sort of ecstasy, sort of ecstatic manner. Information that certain things don't grow here anymore. This antique bronze sundial with a prayer mark on each hour connected to the electrical work. The flowers have a strange reaction to the sodium lights. A glass thorn inside the abscess of Leo. Plants growing in the electrical cables. Pieces of the plant have clearly been burned. And then this farmer's almanac with notes in the margins. Those notes are a very rich opportunity to shape this question or this answer, because I didn't say what they are. You get to kind of say. So the best way to kick off with this is which question you want to do and who has an idea for it.
So I think we should go for the highest complexity, how to transplant it.
Mhm.
And Sybil's gonna take a look at the Farmer's Almanac, and and there's notes from a year where there was a drought, and the god that was being used to help grow the crops started infecting the people who were farming. And as it goes on, the notes get sort of more and more deranged, and rants about, like, we must feed, a god must feed, and you know.
So what do you think the answer is to where to transplant it, and how does that help?
So I think that the conclusion I draw from this is that it started feeding on the residents nearby because it was being confined and it wasn't able to, like, grow things that it normally would be able to. So I think the answer is we have to, like, have the locals, or maybe we can bring in some priests from the Verdant Mother, and have them start growing, like, actual farms. And maybe using this god for their gardens so that it's being put to its original purpose and it's
Oh,
not
so
confined.
basically taking it and putting it to its original purpose. That makes a lot of sense to me. That accounts for a few of the clues too. Any other alternate thoughts or additions?
like if it like the thing is, like, I'm not sure that could be used with the clue like certain things don't grow here anymore, specifically food. Like food can't grow here anymore, but everything else is growing, and it seems like this god is only growing weeds effectively. Like it's getting into like all sorts of cracks and crevices. Like it's growing on the buildings, it's growing in the people, as we saw with Leo having the glass thorn and like the eyes and that sort of thing. So like,
I think I have
Is
an
it-
answer for that.
I'm curious about the electrical connection too. What's that all about?
yeah,
Yeah.
There's a lot of
So
clues about that.
I think there's a ton of information showing that they've been artificially controlling this god, right? Like they've been, you know, based on the existence of the almanac, based on just kind of the general things we talked about with the verdant mother. These sorts of harvest gods expect a cycle, and they have, by their own words, dramatically advanced that cycle, so that it's repeatable in a very tight time frame. And I think the electrical is tied to that, where like maybe it's some kind of regular stimulation, maybe it is like literally juicing the god with the energy from another god, but that's like part of this artificial stimulation that the hydroponic systems are symptomatic of too. And so I think allowing the god to flourish in a more natural rhythm with that of the earth, I think is part of the necessary change in order to make it stabilize and not be so aggressive.
That
Mhm.
connects up pretty well with what Sybil was suggesting, right? It may not be so much necessarily putting it back to its original purpose, but
Yeah.
to get it back to its regular sort of seasonal natural
Mm.
cycle as opposed to this
Yeah.
artificial
I also think
electricity
like
induced thing.
you're right about it being combined with another god because of the thing Todd was talking about with the sort of electrical god that's sort of like on the DL.
Mhm.
And I think maybe separating that out. I think it's a bit of an unholy union.
I got the impression that's what Taj was getting at, right? Like Taj like couldn't come right out and say, but was like suggesting that, this is the angle you should approach. I think the electrical, I think the way that Bastion's described the idea of like they use electricity to basically short circuit literally this harvest god's like seasonal cycles is pretty, it's a pretty good insight. And there's a lot of clues that point to that, right? There's fully like 1, 2, 3, 4 clues, that even 5, the verdant mother clue as well, because they're rejecting the verdant mother, all connects up to that pretty well. And also the almanac, the altar, which is presumably where the god, like the core of the god is, they gave you that specifically to almost like indicate like, look, I'm a cyclical being, like this is what I need, right? So that's kind of interesting. That's like 6 clues just straight there. If you can work in some of the others, I think you've got a really good answer here. I mean,
I have a couple thoughts on some of the
Yeah.
others where about other foods don't grow here, and I think maybe it's almost so if this plant came from the verdant mother, let's say if it was more of a harvest god that would grow vegetables and things that people could eat and had that sort of relationship, and if they've sort of captured it and isolated it and are doing all these artificial processes, that's kind of a reaction on being constrained. It's only growing weird things in response to what it's getting. It's sort of refusing or unable to provide like real sustenance for humans. It's growing other weird things that have strange effects on the people in turn.
so it
Yeah.
just, so that clue just speaks to its inability to do its job, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah, or it's being in the normal like organic cycle of things. And also I
Yeah.
think the all things decay but bring forth new life is like the natural cycles of nature of things regenerating in their own time. But here it's just like pumping more ingredients and experimental ingredients in and forcing it to produce constantly. So, at its normal rhythm, that's what will be happening, but not here.
I also think that all things decay but bring forth new life might even be like the critical clue with explaining why other stuff isn't growing. I think the normal demand that this god has is that all produce that rots in the fields be returned. We had like also like they must be burned, right? Or there was like burned bits of the plant. I think that like all refuse as a byproduct of its growth must be burned and returned to the soil, burned and returned to the god. And I think because that's not what it's being fed as part of this industrialized process, it's being fed this other stuff that we've described. I think it's like leeching the ability to grow from the area around it because it needs that as part of its process.
Very interesting. So, I mean, I think as you all have described it so far, you've got 8 clues accounted for. The only clues you haven't really accounted for are the starlings hopping around these blossoms and berries, and it could be nothing. And then why the glass thorn. I think the significance of the glass thorn is really interesting. I'm not sure what the connection is.
I think it just refers to like the god is trying to effectively break out. It's literally infecting the people around it to just try to like draw in the outsiders who are not particularly from this religion, just to like see like, because outsiders can break stuff, whereas the people in this religion are just so indebted to it that even with like being sort of puppeted by like the god, they can't really do anything about it. So
Well, I think the clue with the starlings hopping around the blossoms and berries, I think that can indicate that this god is capable of providing life,
Right. Yeah.
and sustenance outside of like this tea, and
Yeah.
can grow like berries and flowers
Yeah.
and provide for birds.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's almost like it's like a small like ember of hope or something, right? You
Mhm.
know, little thing burning. That's good. Okay, so this glass thorn situation. I mean, yeah, I mean, I get that, like Theo, like I understand that's probably what the thing is doing, but like, why the glass thorn? That's like that's the part I'm hung up on. Like, it could just be a regular thorn.
like it's again like, I think with the idea that this god is being short circuited by electricity, like the glass thorn is artificial. It's like
Oh, I
transforming the
see.
god into like something
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not.
Okay, I'm into that.
Synthetic.
Yeah. That's interesting. I also wonder, does glass conduct electricity?
Yes, a little bit. Like it's
Yeah.
not like extremely like inductive, but like, well, conductive. It's more inductive. So like you have them for light bulbs, and but there is like wire in it, and one of the reasons why the outside's glass is so it doesn't like conduct outside. So like when you're unscrewing it, and you don't get short circuited.
Mhm.
The
also
glass
talked about,
thorn could be like a tiny bulb.
Ooh.
A bulb that's growing. Nice.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I feel good about all these. I mean, so basically your answer, it sounds like to me, is yes, you're going to transfer it to just a field like where it should be. But more importantly, you need to get it back on its normal, natural, seasonal rhythms and extract all this like artificial, electric powered sort of all this like, I mean, as Haven called it, all these like wild new sacrificial how did he describe it? He had a great phrase.
I have it down in my notes, probably.
Well, Sybil was supposed to write it down, right, for this for the article.
Also, I was thinking we could bring in some priests from the Verdant Mother. I think I said that. I think that they would be very helpful
to get them to like kind of coax it back into its normal state. It wants to. That's why it showed you the almanac, right? I love it. So this is great. All the clues are accounted for. That makes it a +2, which is a really good roll. If everyone agrees, who wants to roll the dice?
I can roll the dice if Sybil doesn't want to.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Roll the dice. +2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that is a 7.
Okay. A 7 means you are correct, but there will be some difficulty or complications in making this happen. Now, you can avoid all those complications and difficulties if you all write a verse. You can bump up the result of answer a question to a 10+, but everybody has to write a verse. But if you're okay with dealing with the complications, then you can certainly roll with it. I will tell you what the complications are, though. The complications are that The complications are this. I think a government agency will swoop in and decide that there's something that we can nationalize here and turn it to our advantage. And so now you're not just dealing with these local yokels, you're dealing with the government. And now we're going to have an interagency drama between folks like you and whoever the government sends to try to appropriate this situation. As a group, you can decide whether you want to bump it up or not, or you can just let that happen. So I'll let you decide.
I mean, I'm down to write a verse, but I wouldn't really mind dealing with the complications if you guys wanted to.
Out of character, I think more weird plant affected complications in the future would be really fun to see what happens.
Yeah, and one of my moves deals with me putting myself in danger to remove conditions, so this is like a good opportunity for that.
Okay.
Yeah, either's fine with me.
So I got 2 votes for either and 2 votes for. Sounds like maybe you're going to just roll with it.
Yeah,
Whatever.
roll with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Sounds good. Okay, great. Now here's the thing. You don't have to resolve it right away. It's there to be resolved. The opportunity is available to you. You have this other assignment that has to be dealt with. But I will tell you that after you all are kind of like, we'll say you're kind of having this conversation, maybe you've gotten a hotel room or something, a motel room somewhere nearby. So you're out of the line of fire of any weird infected people who might want to stop you from what you're doing. You're going to see a couple of things. The first thing you're going to see is a whole lot of trucks rolling by on the highway. These trucks have long beds. They're big, like, semis. And these long beds are covered with heavy black tarps. And you probably see like a dozen of these trucks go by. Now, they're going right through this little hamlet. So I don't think it's connected to your situation. But out of character, it's a conspiracy clue. There's something kind of going on. But then you see another vehicle. It's this world's equivalent of a Humvee. It kind of like pulls up and pulls into the motel, and a couple of people in uniform get out, and one of them says, you overhear them say, "Yeah, I'll go get us a room. Then we'll head over to that growing warehouse afterwards. I'm not sure what's going on over there. I think there's a group of custodians there. I'm not sure. That's what I heard. Not that it matters. I mean, fucking custodians, who cares? We're going to see what they got going on in this place, and we're going to do it. I mean, I don't think we're going to meet much resistance. I think everybody out there is fucking high out of their gourds, so to speak. And get the bags, and you see this guy going in. He's still in his uniform when he goes up to the little office to get his room. His companion is there, like, unloading duffel bags of stuff. What do you all do?
I think Bastion is going to turn to Theo. Do you think they're here to take the god?
Maybe, or do something else. If they know about us, then and they're not from here, then something's going up with that.
I'm gonna try and figure out like what government agency they're from. Like maybe look around like on their vehicles or look for context clues.
They're
I
definitely
don't really want to
they're from
talk to them.
they're from the military for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yikes. Probably
You
means
hear
they're armed then.
the other guy is he's like on a little like kind of satellite phone rig thing that he's got, big giant bulky plastic thing, and he's like, as he's kind of like bringing the bags into the room, he's like, aye sir, yep, yeah, I know, custodians, isn't that funny? Like, oh, the poor out of control god, we have to see what will be helpful for the community. Please. If it was up to me, we'd handle all these stray gods with flamethrowers, napalm. I mean, that's the way to get things done. Just burn them out, burn them down to the roots, so to speak. And yeah, this is how they would handle it. But that's how they're not going to handle it. Like, no. I get it. I know there's a lot of opportunity here, but if it gets out of hand, I'm ready to burn it all down.
Guys, I think we should sick the god on these guys.
I think Bastion will hold up the collection of clippings from the plants that he collected in the green room.
These guys suck. Yeah, let's do it.
I'm not saying we have to, but they went inside. Their van's right there.
Well,
The present in the van. I don't.
or just a more direct approach.
Is the
I think.
idea to get the god to take them over?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what I
that's
want to do.
Bastion's thought. Yeah,
Like to take them over so that they basically give a report that causes the military to not want to be involved in this anymore.
I was
if
just
that's
gonna
what the
slash.
god wants.
Like Theo's like under the impression that we're just gonna slash their tires because like I think like it's a little bit of a drive away.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we can show them the ways of the verdant mother.
Well, I mean, Bastion, this is kind of your plan. So what would you do?
I think it needs to be in two parts. I think Bastion will explain. I think somebody got some tea samples at some point in the tours.
I'm sure Mercer probably did. Yeah.
So what I think is, Mercer, if you can get them to try some of the product that they're making there, and we'll get the roots established in their vehicle. Combination of factors, the opportunity for the god to make its way inside, it should be able to have an effect on them, a little more than perhaps on the packaging it says.
You want me to share a drink with government soldiers? Out of character, Mercer's gonna be not very helpful. Maybe you should give it to them. You're, friendly.
Sure. And he'll hand you the clippings if you're comfortable with helping out and getting things planted.
Absolutely. Eyes the clippings. Might keep one for later.
Interesting. This is a great plan. I like it. Maybe if Theo and Sybil, if you have anything to contribute to this effort to make it easier, it might be time to do it.
Yeah, I might want to ask some of the locals, or maybe do some looking in my books and see if there's a way we can get these guys on board, so to speak.
I mean, I think that basically I don't know like how reachable. I mean, they have their orders. I think that it sounds like the plan is just to basically like get the harvest god to take over their minds, and then that they are like distracted from this mission and they don't like carry, they don't like go through with it. So that you can then transplant the thing. That part seems pretty straightforward, but you might have to write prayer marks, right, to get the tendrils to grow. I mean, surely you can't just set them in the car and hope.
Oh yeah, I do have.
I
could use my move there. Yeah. So I can Yeah, I can. You can have advantage because I can use my ink to let you write a prayer mark.
Nice.
So then, Bastion, when you go to like plant the plants in the
I
vehicle,
think it sounds like Mercer's probably either Mercer or Theo's
or
going to
whoever's doing it.
Yeah.
Or Mercer. Okay. Well,
I gotta
Mercer,
go
while
talk
you're
up the
doing,
government.
yeah, Mercer, while you're doing the planting, if you use the sacred ink from Sybil to write the prayer mark that will get the plants to do their thing, that will give you advantage on the roll. So
Awesome. So what should I roll here?
well, let's get this. Let's kind of frame up the scene first.
Yeah.
So Bastion, I think at one point these two soldiers are like in the little hallway with the vending machines, you know, and
Oh yeah, ice machine.
Yeah. And they're kind of getting some ice, and the ice machine is not working. It's kind of jammed up. It's like rah, 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 rah. And he's like, God damn it. And he's looking and he's like, oh, of course. Not he's like, no mark of the Saint Electric, naturally. And so what do you do?
Yeah, I think Bastion walks up. He's got a thermos with the tea at his side, but he's also got his toolbox. And as he rounds the corner, did I hear somebody mention the Saint Electric? I heard there was a faulty ice machine over here.
Oh, are you a follower of the saint? You gonna fix this thing? You know, it doesn't have a mark.
He gestures to like the mark on his gloves. Well, he opens up his toolbox he sets down beside him and pulls out like a tool like you might use for embossing that can, with enough force with a hammer, leave a mark, and it's got the mark of the Saint Electric on it, and says, well, "This device is going to be claimed in honor of the saint."
Right. I mean, yes, I just want ice.
He goes over, has a hammer. He starts tapping on it to start making the mark before he begins his work. So
pretty lucky of us that somebody who follows the Saint Electric just happened to be right around the corner when the ice machine is on the fritz, huh?
Oh, I'm on call for this city. The owner of the building here and called me over. There's reports from other folks staying at the motel.
Right. Okay. Well, all right. Do your thing.
He goes to tap it. I think he unscrews the lid on the thermos and takes a sip, makes a delighted face. Oh, have you all had some of the tea from around here that they're working on? It's delightful stuff, remarkable even. Clarifies the mind, builds up the body.
I think this is enough time for Mercer for you to go in and do your thing. Are you using the ink from Sybil?
Yeah, sounds good.
What is the nature of the mark that you're doing? I mean, is this your first attempt to do the mark of the one that you get for the move? The mark of quickening?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. What does the mark look like? Just in general terms.
I think it's like if you uproot a plant, there's like a bundle with a couple like scraggly lines, like little tendrils and roots coming up.
Okay, so it kind of looks like tendrily roots coming out of a bulb. I like that. That's pretty cool. I think this is going to be with communion and taking a look at your you don't have any conditions, so that's good. And advantage because of the ink.
Awesome. All right. 9.
I have to tell you how it will be. Or actually, I'm supposed to ask you what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail.
And I'm marking this like in their vehicle, right? Is that
yeah, well, you can kind of tell me what like the exact way it's going. But yeah, it's like generally speaking in their vehicle. Yeah.
Are we trying to like disable their vehicle or just further get them under this thing's
No, take over their minds. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, then I think it's I'm like broken in. I'm cutting into like the foam of their seats and just like planting seedlings. So like when they sit, it'll kind of be right there.
Nice. Yep. I was supposed to ask what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail, but I think I'm just going to roll forward and just say, the way this is going to be complicated is I think the hungering roots. I think you can see one of the little clippings trying to enter your body as well. You can let it enter your body willingly if you want, in which case you get a condition, or you can roll to resist it.
I have an idea for how I would like to resist it. Mercer might want to do an experiment of his own here. If I just like feed it a little blood for now and put it in the jar with my crab angels so they can
See
kind
what
of be
happens.
together.
Yeah, I like it. I don't need you to roll. Actually, I like
Okay.
that. That's pretty good. Your roll for the prayer mark stands though, and this will work. The next morning, these guys are so loud. They're like, yeah, I don't think there's anything really here to see. We'll just tell HQ that it was all just rumors and speculation. There's no weird harvest god going crazy, growing mind-altering psychotropic teas. That's ridiculous. Just rumors and hearsay, rumors and hearsay. I don't know about you, but I'd like to get started on the weekend. I've got a really, really early morning round of golf waiting on me. Sending up all my prayers to the saint of, what is it? The saint of soaring straight and narrow.
These guys play golf,
Yeah.
so I have no qualms about anything we're doing. Also, I wanna put like a couple of worms in the car too. A couple of the
Oh, yeah.
the worms, the scrivener, or actually beetles.
Destroy some government documents while you're at it.
Yeah.
I love it. The Lord of Soaring Straight and True. He says, yeah, I'm going to send up some prayers to the Lord of Soaring Straight and True. And the other guy's like, what you really need to do is send up a prayer to the Lord of avoiding the sand traps, because that's what you, and water hazards, because that tends to be the way your game goes. And they're laughing, ha ha ha, fuck this place, let's get out of here. And they go, leaving you.
Oh, also, wait. If there's like documents in the car, can I put like some pages from my books? Just like mix it in there.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I just screw these guys.
They drive off, and you can now transplant the harvest god as you wish. And I'm not interested in role playing all this bit, but basically I think the idea is you contact some priests of the Verdant Mother and explain to them what's going on, and they will get this. They have the god in a big earthenware pot, and they will get the god back on its proper cycles of decay and growth. And this neighborhood will not be consumed by this ravenous, fecund harvest god. And that is the assignment resolved. So let's go ahead and go to our end of session. We are at time. Let's see here. For the end of session, first of all, gotta get my little structure here. Collect rewards if an assignment was resolved. An assignment was resolved. So let me grab the list of rewards, and you all get to choose what you want. I'm going to just clip it and put it in the chat for you here, but I'm going to read it out loud for people watching the video. You each get to pick one thing. The options are a small stitch root seedling used for splicing and stabilization of other plants. Will grow and become affixed to anything it is planted near. Add it to your altar. A jar of nutrient-rich compost water able to quicken growing things or neutralize toxins. Add it to your altar. A machete, grip wrapped in salvaged leather cord, hand etched with the words sow on one side and reap on the other. Add it to your altar. Midnight Reverie, a potent blend of loose leaf psychotropic tea. Or there are two options for a memento from the investigation. Ask another custodian to describe what it is and then add it to your altar. You're also all going to get a brand new move that you all have access to, which I will add to the move sheet. The move is called the Mark of Quickening. When you write a prayer mark to invoke the cycles of birth and decay within living matter, describe what the mark looks like, and then your next associated roll is made with vitality. So basically, it's like vitality if you need it, essentially. And let's get this done here. So the Mark of Quickening, a move that everybody has access to. Rewards. Who's taking what?
If nobody else feels strongly about it, I would love the Midnight Reverie tea.
I'm gonna take the seedling. I feel like that could be useful. I might do some experiments with that and like some of my bugs and books and stuff.
I want the jar of nutrient-rich compost water.
Well, I think Mercer is feeling like poorly armed after using fishing hooks in a fight, so I think I would like to take the machete.
You're gonna take Reap and Sow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Cool. All right, next step after we do rewards is answer end of session questions. So let's take a look at our end of session questions and see how we did. Okay, so everyone is going to get, did the custodians complete an assignment? Yes, you completed an assignment, so everyone gets that mark. Did you engage with a god, angel, or other divine manifestation? Mercer definitely did. Bastion definitely did. Theo, I guess you did too, Theo, because of the thorn thing. Sybil, did you engage with the god, angel, or other divine manifestation? I'm trying to remember. Like directly.
Like, I know Theo was just talking to a bunch of people during the session, but like, nothing really directly, unless you consider the scene with Bastion, maybe, but...
Oh, no, I was talking to Sybil. Sybil, no, Theo, I think you got it for sure. Sybil, did you engage with a god, angel, or other divine manifestation this session?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think. Sorry,
I don't know if you did. I'm trying to. I don't.
Okay.
I'm trying to like remember back.
Like she observed the. I don't know if it counts as engaging, but observing the birds with like the berries and things, like manifestations of the plant a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I like that. Yeah.
I also was like, I don't know if this counts, but I was helping, you know, with the revitalization of the god and helping it grow naturally and bringing the priest. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, you did have the idea
of
contacting the priests, I think so. It was your idea to contact the Verdant Mother priest, so I'll take that. But I also think the little thing with the birds as well, I thought that was actually pretty good. Okay, so you got that mark. And then let's go to the individual questions now. Mercer, did you undermine the orders of your superiors or use the assignment to pursue personal interests? Yes, you did, because of the little crab in your jar. Did you go out of your way to connect with the local community?
In a weird way, I was at least trying to get in the warehouse by being like, "Oh, great, show me what you're doing here." I don't know if it really.
I don't know if it's quite the same thing. Yeah,
it didn't really help them out though.
Yeah. Bastion, did you struggle with your personal faith?
I think so. There was like a moment of indecision up top where he kind of abandoned his play for the Saint Electric and tried to pray to this other god. And
that's right.
When that didn't work out,
that's right.
And he like took the electricity upon himself. He got singed as a result, and so I think he takes that as like, oh, my faith wasn't strong enough. I couldn't serve as a
I'm into it. Did you deliver a monologue about any of the following: the nature of gods, the futility of individual choices, etc.?
read some poetry, but it doesn't, I think, factor in any of that
Yeah.
particularly.
Theo, were you vulnerable with someone?
No, people were vulnerable with me, but that doesn't count.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you put your
I
hand
thought the
in a guy's
description
mouth.
of helping, well, that's that, and also the way you helped Mercer, I thought wasn't interesting. You could have just been like there, but you like, you like, we saw this healer moment of like holding his head in your lap and everything.
I don't know. Yeah, I would count it. I think I don't know. I think it counts. Yeah. Did you go
Hmm.
out of your way to connect with the local community?
Uh, I just generally was like trying to like help people. Like I took the thorn out of like the
Oh, you
like the
helped that
workers'
guy.
mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's I'll give you that because you didn't have to do that. Sybil, did you undermine the orders of your superiors? Or yes, you did. You used the assignment to pursue
Yeah.
your personal interests. Did you go out of your way to connect with the local community?
Yeah, I think I did with the stuff at the end with the god.
Oh, yeah. I would even go so far as to say that, like, um, in a weird way, like pretending to be a newspaper reporter with that one guy. It's kind of, what's more local than like the local paper. No, I'm into it as a general matter. I think everyone did pretty great with all that. Yeah, so all your marked boxes become XP on your XP track. And so do all of that stuff. If you advanced, you get to pick an advancement from the list below, and you can do all that in between sessions. Let's keep going on our little structure here. Resolve any moves that are resolved at the end of session. I don't think we have any, but maybe I'm wrong. Or answer any verse prompts. I do think we have some unresolved verse prompts. Who's got one?
I have one.
Yeah, read your prompt and then do it.
So I wrote a verse of history, and I picked a flashback to your childhood showing your first direct encounter with a god. I think when Mercer was 4 or 5, his uncle invited him to go fishing for the first time. And this was very exciting because as a child growing up in the parish of Tide and Flesh, he could scavenge around the banks of the river. He could find clams. He could help in that way, but he wasn't really allowed in more important matters like that. And as they were going down to the pier to this small fishing boat, his uncle was telling him about how the river is sacred, how the tides swallow everything, they bring back gifts, and how we are children of the water and this kind of thing. And then invites Mercer to get into the boat first. And giddy with excitement, he hops in the boat and looks back, and he's already drifting away, and his uncle is still standing on shore. He has no oars, no equipment. He doesn't know how to swim or anything. And he just basically tells him, "You're a child of the water. And if it's meant to be, you'll come back and tell us what you've seen." And he's terrified. He's, spends the rest of this day cowering in the bottom of this boat, tries to paddle a little bit, eventually works up the courage to kind of look over the side into the river, and has a sense of just when he's being taken deep into the river and feeling the currents draw this boat away, when he's wondering if he's ever going to see his family again. He feels the river looking back up at him. There's not as much of a face, but just this reassurance that he's being held by the river, and eventually finds his way back. And from then on, that sensation never goes away of knowing that this river is alive, that everything they're talking about in the faith is coming from a real presence and not just words. And that's not necessarily reassuring. It's just as terrifying, but it's a realization that it is a living thing.
Nice, thank you. Were there any other verses that need to be written?
Can we do either prophecy or history?
Yeah, were you required to mark one earlier?
Oh no.
Oh
I
yeah,
kind of do want to do a verse, but I guess I wasn't
yeah,
required
they're
to,
marked
so
when
it
you
doesn't-
you mark them to bump a die roll up. Yeah. Yeah, so hold that thought. So next time, if you have an opportunity to, because you don't even have to, like, it doesn't even have to be a failed roll. You can bump up any roll, right?
Okay, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, love all that. I think that's everything then. If there's nothing else, let's do stars and wishes. If you recall last time, stars are things you enjoyed about the session. Wishes are things that you hope to happen next time. I will say that my wish is going to get fulfilled next time, because the very first thing we're going to do is the journey scene to go to the next assignment. So that will happen. But other wishes I have, I don't know. Like, I feel like everyone did a really good job today of like stars for like getting your kind of your moves, your faith moves involved more, and to just kind of show your connection to your God. I think that's really starting to come out more a lot. I really enjoyed Theo's taking in diseases. I thought that was quite gruesome and cool. Really, really enjoyed that. I like Bastion's way of, like, there's almost like a sort of, there's a certitude bordering on like arrogance with like Bastion's, like, using the power of the Saint Electric to like solve problems. And I think that fits a follower of the most predominant god in the setting, right? I think that's pretty great. And I just generally kind of like this sort of weird like handyman vibe that your character has, and how that gets you access to places. I think it's super interesting. Really, really loved the all the different gods we created today. The churned one was very clever. I love the Lord of Soaring Straight and True that got several call outs today. Really just kind of love all those little kind of fun details. Everyone did a great job with that today. And yeah, the scenes were good. The side characters were a lot of fun to play off of and to role play with you all. Really like that quite intense sacrifice scene that Mercer did, sacrificing that guy in the trough. I thought that was a great way of combining like Trawler Man kind of vibes to this like hungering roots problem. I thought that was really, really good. And yeah. And the answer question was great too. I really enjoyed the way you all strung together the clues to make the answer work. So star for that. But yeah, my only wish, I guess, is just to, I'm really curious to see, because you're going to have 2 active assignments, because another one will get presented. And then you'll have to decide which one you're going to go to. I'll be curious to see if you split up and try both, or how that's going to go. If you go to one, then go to the other. And as I mentioned before, very curious to see the first journey phase. So, yeah.
I gotta give a star for Moss for, like, I think you were one who were coming up like with all the gods' names, like just like and just like reincorporating like, oh, the god of this and the god of that, and like how you were investigating everything and very like pretending to be a newspaper reporter, and like that was just very good of like reincorporating your own god but pretending like you're following another god at the same time. I Mercer and Bastion, your roles. I wish for your roles to be slightly better, so like you're not in danger all the time. But it still was very fun to like see how you got out of the trouble in your own very unique ways, but still very aggressive. I'm not sure is the right word, but like just like the general like, ooh, sacrifice, and ooh, I'm going to electrocute myself and then jump off like of like this off this building. Just like, oh my god. You're going to be the heart attack of Theo.
Or Pox Monk keeping us alive. No.
Yeah, stars too. Oh shit, I forget who it was, but whoever came up with the idea of like putting the seedlings under the seats of the cars, I thought that was great. And I thought like our resolution to the conflict overall was fun, and yeah, I really like doing that. Yeah, actually, for my wishes between sessions, I was like, oh, maybe I should brainstorm, come up with a couple ideas, and I ended up writing like an entire backstory for Sybil, like a lot of stuff. So I mean, I wish for that to hopefully come up, and maybe I'll get to write a verse, or it'll be relevant.
Starts to how after the solution where we all decided it's fine to have this complication, and then as soon as we saw the soldiers, like, no, we're gonna destroy these guys. I thought that was really not necessary, but really fun response. And I like that showed us a bit more of the characters working together and improvising. Like I've purposely done a lot of run off and do my own thing, but I think a wish is to see more of that in the future, is forcing our characters to band together, whether that's on journey scenes or being actually in the same dangerous situation together and have to talk about it. So I think that's going to be really fun. Stars everyone's individual scenes. I just love seeing the moves come out, like Jason mentioned, and all the little asides of inventing gods, but even just the little details we're adding, like Sybil leaving pages from the scrivener just to spread that, leaving beetles. I like how we're all grabbing the details of the world and the textures and seizing on those and continuing to like make them our own and inject the weirdness of our own characters into it. So really fun all around.
Started Jason for immediately making me hate the military industrial complex of this fantastical world. I really liked how everybody, like, there's a really cool fanning out and then fanning back together that happens with a lot of Carve from Brindlewood games. I share the wish that I hope that we can do a little bit of fanning out together in the next ones. I actually, if I were to have a concrete wish, it's that we have a kind of an even split for people interested in different threats, and that we do go kind of explore in smaller batches. I think that'll be a really great way, as we saw with like Sybil and Theo as they were collaborating in the community. And this threat, like, it gives you good opportunity to kind of play off of each other when it's a smaller, like, immediate group, right? So I kind of want to see and explore more of that. And yeah, I also am really curious with the journey phase. This is pretty new for Carve from Brindlewood stuff, like having a whole kind of section devoted to this rather than just
travel.
a move.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to kind of explore that and see how that feels.
It's because travel is so important to the audio drama, right? Like, and John, one of the creators of the show, was like, that was like his main request when we were talking about like the structure of the game, was there has to be like, it should capture this idea of like being on the road and traveling to places and seeing things and restaurants and roadside shrines and like all that kind of stuff, right? So that's what I think that's what we're attempting to do with the journey phase. So.
Yeah, I'm really excited to try that out.
Is that everyone? Stars and Wishes? Great. Well, that's all I've got for today. So great session, everyone. Thank you all so much. I will wave goodbye to people watching the video.